Typically, the keynotes that I do are around my work as a hostage negotiator, how I got into hostage negotiation, and how the skill set of influence and persuasion moves from both through leadership and in relation to corporate negotiation. It's the same skill set. It absolutely is the same skill set, just used in a different environment.
I was just wondering about the what the 6 modes of listening are.
Yeah, so 6 modes of listening. You have got combative. So combative is listening for disagreement. And what you're doing is you're tuning yourself in to listen to the negativity. So that's combative. Then you've got confirmatory, which a lot of people are in, particularly business mode, is confirmatory listening is listening for the things that confirm your idea is right. Then you've got passive listening. So we've mentioned that before. That's listening to the voice in your head. Competitive. You will all know competitive listeners. You are listening to the respond to outdo. Okay. Then you've got autobiographical. Autobiographical listening is listening to the values and beliefs of the other side, what motivates them, what their fears are, but applying your own value set. Completely wrong. We've not got time to talk about empathy, but that's what we try to do. Try to falsely create empathy by by listening to them in that context. However, we miss it because it's our value set, not theirs. Yeah, and then you've got reflective listening, which is reflective listening is listening for the emotional content, which is what we train to do, is listen for the emotion and reflect the emotional content back. And that works corporately as well. Decision making is emotionally driven. There's lots of research now around decision making, and what all the research shows with functional MRI scanning is that before a decision is made, the emotional centers of the brain fire. So we have to get into the emotion of people to understand what it is that's driving them. So those are your very short, potted version. Are your six listening modes?
Hi, Kevin. That was fascinating. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, how do you sort of open up the conversation to get a real understanding of people's values so you then know how to negotiate?
One of the first things that I recommend that people understand is themselves. And what I'm talking about is not what I like, what I don't like, but what is it I like about me? What is it I don't like about me? And what is it other people like and don't like about me? What do I feel I'm good at? What am I not so good at? And the important question is, what do I like about other people? And what don't I like about other people? Because you will all, myself included, come across people you don't like in the workplace. You can't, certainly in my world and in yours too, you can't walk away. But what you have to do is understand. And then from there is let them speak. We often ask too many questions. And I know, Debbie, you said then about what's the question that you would ask. So when we ask too many questions, a question steers the conversation in the direction the asker wants to take it. Yeah. And the way you ask the question often gives away more about you than it does the answer you get. So like I said, when I said before about the energy changes, listen to the way someone asks a question. Because when they ask a question that's important to them, their energy will spike, their pace will go up. And I know now this is important to you. Yeah, so the skill is, I'm quite sure many of you will have heard of active listening. Well, active listening is the core skill of negotiators, and it is nothing at all to do with listening. People talk about nodding your head and making eye contact. That's one of the skills. Active listening is much broader, and it is the ability to keep a conversation going without the need to ask a question. When I do that, I keep it on your agenda. When I keep it on your agenda, I get a much deeper understanding of what it is that's important to you. So rather than going with the questions, what I will be looking at is how you structure a question is important to get a longer response from somebody. And then from there, I will use active listening to keep the person talking on their agenda. That's where I would go with that, Debbie.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kevin.
Hi. I know that emotional intelligence and leadership has kind of been batted around, and you mentioned being present and kind of seeing those, I guess, cues around how a person is feeling. How do you balance kind of personal involvement while also de-escalating someone, or like managing them, or I guess like trying to get to your goal of releasing a hostage or something?
Emotional intelligence is huge, absolutely it is. And as I said before, decision making is emotionally based. So I think understanding what emotional intelligence is, firstly, and when you look at emotional intelligence, people will often say that it's about reading the emotions of other people. It's much deeper than that. It's about understanding how those emotions are impacting on the individual, but also using that knowledge to predict how they're going to behave in the future. So having a real understanding of what emotional intelligence actually is, or emotional awareness, is important. The first thing is understanding yourself, and which is the exercise that I give to people to do. Because if you don't understand yourself, you leak. We refer to it as leaking. And what I mean by that is, you will all know yourself that when you've spoken to someone and you've delivered a line, as soon as that line lands with the other person, the voice in your head gets loud, and you think, oh, they didn't like that, because you see that reaction in them. You're now leaking. Your tone changes, your delivery changes. So understanding yourself is massively important. And, you know, I do an exercise around first impressions when I'm working with teams. And one of the things I always say is, I guarantee you won't offend me, because I've been called everything you can think of, and probably quite a few things you can't think of. Lack of hair usually came into it. Depending on where we were in time of year, weight might have come into it, whether I've got my summer or winter body on. But you can't let that impact on your delivery, because if you do, you start to damage the relationship. So emotional awareness is huge, Natalia, in understanding how you control yourself. And the first thing is, you have to be able to control yourself before you can start to deal with other people, because otherwise you leak and you give things away. And people will, particularly in my world, and you know, when you look corporately around finance, law, medicine, the three disciplines with the highest number of psychopaths in the workplace, people will push your buttons to get a reaction. They will try and push your buttons. So understanding yourself helps prevent that leakage. Don't get me wrong, people will still wind you up. It just means that you control yourself better.
Yeah, that was so interesting. Thanks.
Right.
Really good, Kevin. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much, guys.